Welcome to the module, Executive Functioning and Developmental Stages. We are glad you're here. We value your time and appreciate your active participation during this module. Here are a few suggested learning norms to make the most of your time. If possible, work in an environment with few distractions so you can engage and reflect. Take notes and jot down ideas and questions as needed. And lastly, use this time wisely to ensure your professional learning with university instructors is productive. Here's our agenda for today's session. Executive Functioning, EF, defined, EF components, universal supports, developmental stages, a final reflection, and a summary. By the end of this session, participants will be able to define executive functioning and identify its core components, recognize common signs of executive functioning challenges at different ages and developmental stages, explain the impact of executive functioning on academic, social, and emotional outcomes, describe how executive functioning skills develop across major developmental stages, and apply strategies to support the development of executive functioning skills in K-12 students. What do we mean when we use the term executive functioning? What does that mean for your students? How does knowing about EF impact your role as an instructor? Let's start by defining it and learning the relevancy of this topic to working with students. Executive functioning, EF, refers to mental processes that help you set and carry out goals. You use these skills to develop problems, make plans, and manage emotions. Research suggests strong executive functioning skills make a difference in your mental and physical health and quality of life. Poor skills can affect your ability to do well in school, find and keep a job, or have strong social connections. The prefrontal cortex, often called the brain's control center, governs executive functions like planning, decision-making, and self-control. EF develops gradually with major growth during childhood and adolescence and is not fully mature until the mid-20s. This means that even teenagers are still learning to regulate emotions, plan ahead, and manage complex text. EF development is also influenced by environment. Stress or trauma can slow growth, while consistent support, routines, and scaffolds can help strengthen these skills. In the classroom, this highlights the importance of modeling strategies, providing structure, and explicitly teaching EF skills. Students with executive functioning difficulties often struggle to start or complete homework, follow multi-step directions, and stay organized. They may misjudge time needed for tasks, miss deadlines, and experience frustration or emotional outbursts when overwhelmed. Can you think of a student who exhibits signs like these? I imagine you can. Helping students overcome these challenges is a necessary step in our instructional practice, as these academic, social, and emotional skills impact students' daily lives. Executive functioning skills are essential for academic success. They help students remember assignments, plan and organize multi-step tasks, manage time effectively, and monitor their own progress. Strong EF allows students to break complex problems into smaller steps, follow directions, and complete work independently. When EF skills are underdeveloped, students may forget instructions, struggle with long-term projects, or have difficulty prioritizing tasks, thus highlighting the need for scaffolds such as visual schedules, checklists, and structured routines. EF skills play a key role in social interactions. They help students wait their turn, follow group rules, consider others' perspectives, and respond appropriately in social situations. Students with strong EF can manage conflicts, adapt to changing social dynamics, and cooperate effectively with peers. When EF skills are weaker, students may act impulsively, struggle to take others' viewpoints into account, or have difficulty navigating group activities, thus highlighting the need for scaffolds such as structured group tasks, role playing, and modeling positive social behavior. EF skills are essential for managing emotions as well. They help students regulate frustration, control impulses, stay calm during setbacks, and respond thoughtfully to challenges. Students with strong EF skills can cope with stress, recover from mistakes, and maintain focus even when emotionally upset. When EF skills are underdeveloped, students may react impulsively, become easily frustrated, or struggle to adapt to changes, making supports like breathing exercises, calm down strategies, self-regulation, and structured reflection critical in the classroom. Let's pause to reflect. How do executive functioning skills influence students' emotional regulation, social interactions, and academic success in your classroom? Which executive functioning skills do you notice your students use or struggle with most in emotional, social, or academic situations? Stop the video to write down your reflections. Some possible responses for number 1 could be students with strong executive functioning skills like working memory and self-control are better able to manage frustration, stay on task, and navigate group work effectively. When students struggle with planning and organization, they often feel overwhelmed, which can lead to emotional outbursts or withdrawal from social interactions. Time management and task initiation skills directly impact academic success. So students who can prioritize and start tasks independently tend to complete assignments more efficiently and confidently. And impulse control affects both social and academic settings. Students who can pause before reacting often resolve conflicts more calmly and participate more meaningfully in class discussions. For number 2, you may have written that many students struggle with working memory, which makes it hard for them to follow multi-step directions or remember social cues. Emotional control is an area where some students need support. They might overreact to challenges or feedback, affecting both learning and peer relationships. Organization and planning skills are often inconsistent, so some students keep track of materials and deadlines well, while others need frequent reminders. Flexible thinking varies widely. Students who can adapt when plans change tend to handle group work and problem-solving tasks more successfully. And I notice self-monitoring is a skill that develops gradually. Students who reflect on their behavior and work are more likely to adjust strategies and resolve conflicts independently. Executive functioning consists of 3 key components: working memory, cognitive flexibility, and inhibitory control. Let's learn a little more about each of these and consider some classroom scenarios. Working memory allows students to hold and use information, such as remembering directions or steps in a task. Cognitive flexibility enables them to shift perspectives, adapt to changes, and approach problems in different ways. Inhibitory control helps students manage impulses, stay focused, and regulate their behavior in the classroom. Together, these skills support academic success, social interactions, and emotional regulation, and they can be strengthened through scaffolds, modeling, and explicit instruction. Let's look at each of these components in more detail. Working memory allows students to hold and manipulate information in their mind for short periods. For example, remembering multi-step directions, doing mental math, or keeping track of a story while reading. When a student struggles with working memory, you might see them forget multi-step directions or sequencing in a story or text. Let's consider a real-world scenario. 2 fifth-grade students are given the same multi-step math assignment. One student demonstrates strong working memory by reading the problem carefully, underlining key information, mapping out each step, and asking clarifying questions when confused, and completing the assignment independently and on time. The other student struggles with working memory, forgetting part of the instructions, becoming frustrated, and leaving the work incomplete. Having learned some supports we can implement to assist student B, what could you do in this situation? Pause the video to consider this scenario. Possible responses are step-by-step guides as reminders, so when the student forgets, or visual aids when they can't keep everything clear in their mind. The next component of EF is cognitive flexibility, also known as flexible thinking, which allows students to shift their attention, change perspectives, or adapt when the rules or plans change. Students with difficulty in this area get stuck on one idea, become upset with unexpected changes, or struggle to try new strategies when a problem gets difficult. Let's consider another scenario. Mr. Brown announces a sudden change to his 6th grade class. The written group project due Friday will instead be an oral, in-class debate. One student demonstrates strong cognitive flexibility by adjusting quickly and saying to the group, "Okay, let's review our written work and identify points to make in a debate." Another student, Anne, becomes upset, saying that's not fair, you just can't change the assignment now, and refuses to participate with her group. This example shows how cognitive flexibility is necessary for students to adapt to new situations, shift perspectives, and approach challenges with a positive mindset. Knowing that you can support students who struggle with cognitive flexibility by modeling flexible thinking and practicing perspective taking, how might you respond to this student? Stop the video to reflect. Possible answers are, "I can see that this change has upset you, Anne. Let's consider how we can use this as an opportunity to highlight your group's skills. Since you do well with writing, then maybe you can highlight some of the work you've done and share it with Sean, who is strong with speaking, to use during the debate. That way you are both successfully contributing to the change in the assignment." Inhibitory control is the third component of EF and is the ability to pause before reacting, or to think before acting. It helps students resist distractions, control impulses, and stay focused. A student with weak inhibitory control might call out during class, struggle to wait their turn, or get up frequently during lessons. In this high school scenario, students are asked to work independently on their essays. One student demonstrates strong inhibitory control by resisting the urge to talk to peers, staying focused, and completing parts of the essay. Another student struggles, blurting out comments, checking their phone, and distracting peers. This illustrates how inhibitory control is essential for students to manage impulses, maintain attention, and regulate behavior. Teachers can support students with weaker inhibitory control by providing visual cues, self-monitoring checklists, structured routines, and opportunities for short breaks or movement to practice self-regulation. What are some ways that you could assist student B with managing their inhibitory control? Pause the video to think about that question. Possible responses may be that the instructor could use a visual cue for the student when they speak out of turn, such as a soft tap on their desk or silently pointing to a rule on the wall. You could also check in one-on-one with the student every so often to help with focus, or provide them with a list of to-dos in the time frame allotted that they could check off when complete. That list can also include short movement breaks when certain items are completed to help overcome anxiety or frustration. Let's watch a video clip on EF and how we might support the development of EF components in the classroom. As you watch, what is one aha moment you capture?
Executive function is the brain's air traffic controller. It intercepts a tangle of inbound thoughts and impulses and steers them towards productive outcomes. Executive function helps students stay focused, plan ahead and set goals, regulate emotions, monitor their own learning, and think flexibly and creatively. But children aren't born with executive function skills. They develop over time. In fact, the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain which houses executive functions, is still maturing well into our teens and 20s. So teaching executive function skills should start early, be reinforced regularly, and continue up through high school, at least. How do you do that? Don't just teach content. Look for ways to take a step back and give students the skills and the discipline to learn on their own. And remember that failure is part of the process. Academic preparation needs to be taught. Show students how to use calendars and to-do lists, for example, to manage their time and plan ahead. Encourage students to ask questions like, do I have a plan for succeeding at this? What was confusing or difficult about that task? How can I do better next time? The research shows that metacognitive strategies lead to better preparation, planning, and performance. And high stress levels can impair executive function. So consider activities like mindfulness or meditation to help students deal with stress. And don't skimp on recess. Spend the time. The research backs you up. Executive function is a more accurate predictor of success than test scores, IQ, or socioeconomic status.
Based on the video, what was one aha moment you captured while watching? Mine was EF is a more accurate predictor of success than test scores, IQ, or socioeconomic status. Wow, this really highlights why it's imperative that we teach and model EF skills for all students, especially since we have learned that executive function skills develop over time and are not fully automatic. So what implications does this have for how we work with different age groups or for supporting learners who may lag in these skills? Pause the video to write down your answers. A possible answer could be that the implications are that we must intentionally embed strategies in our classrooms and small groups for teaching, modeling, and reinforcing EF skills on a regular basis and at every grade level. On a side note, not all districts or schools allow for mindfulness or meditation, so please check with a colleague or administrator before implementing that strategy. You have heard and considered some potential ways to help students who struggle with EF skills, but all students can benefit from some of these practices. Universal supports provide structure and guidance that strengthen executive functioning skills for all. Consistent routines and clear classroom structure help students anticipate what comes next and can reduce anxiety. Visual cues such as charts, timers, and color coding support organization and focus. Modeling how to plan and problem solve teaches students strategies that they can replicate independently. Breaking down large tasks into smaller, manageable steps helps students complete complex assignments successfully while practicing working memory, planning, and self-regulation. Let's look at some classroom examples of these supports. Consistent routines and structure help students feel secure and know what to expect. So for example, in a first grade classroom, starting each day with a morning meeting and a posted daily agenda reduces anxiety and helps with smooth transitions. Visual cues further support executive functioning. A fourth grade instructor might use a sand timer during group discussions, so each student has a fair turn, or color code homework folders by subject to help students stay organized. These strategies support focus, self-regulation, and independent task completion across grade levels. Modeling how to plan and problem solve gives students a concrete example of how to approach the tasks. For instance, an instructor might think aloud while working through a math problem, demonstrating each step and from understanding the question to checking the answer. Breaking down big tasks into smaller, manageable steps also supports executive functioning. In a 10th grade writing assignment, instead of saying, "Write your essay," the instructor provides a checklist. Brainstorm ideas, create an outline, draft, revise, and submit. These strategies help students practice working memory, planning, and self-regulation while completing complex tasks successfully. Although universal supports work well for all students, sometimes you need more targeted supports to help students with greater executive functioning challenges. Using planners, checklists, and visual calendars helps students remember assignments, track progress, and organize materials. Teaching goal setting and self-monitoring, such as asking, "Did I check my work?" encourages reflection and accountability. Providing flexible seating or movement breaks allows students to maintain focus and regulate energy levels. Breathing exercises and regulation tools like fidgets or calm corners support emotional control and help students re-engage with learning after a moment of frustration. Using planners, checklists, and visual calendars helps students with executive functioning challenges to stay organized and manage assignments. For example, a middle school student might use a digital planner like Google or Microsoft Calendars to receive homework reminders with a teacher checking progress weekly. Teaching goal setting and self-monitoring encourages reflection and accountability. A high school student might write a weekly goal in their agenda or a planner, such as "I will check my work before turning it in," and at the end of the week, reflect on whether they met that goal. These strategies promote independence, planning, and self-awareness. Provide flexible seating or movement breaks helps students regulate their energy and maintain focus during lessons. For example, a third grader who struggles to stay seated might have the option to use a wobbly stool or lay on the reading carpet to do classwork. Breathing exercises and regulation tools support emotional control and self-regulation. In a second grade classroom, students can use a calm corner with breathing cards or stress balls to manage frustration before rejoining group activities. These strategies give students practical ways to manage impulses, regulate emotions, and remain engaged in learning. Now let's take a closer look at your classroom routines. Often the way we structure our days can either support students' executive functioning skills or unintentionally make things harder. We'll do a short activity to map this out so you can see patterns and identify opportunities for adjustment. Draw a T-chart like the one on this slide and think about your daily or weekly routines. Everything from morning arrival, transitions between activities or classes, independent work, group work, or even how you give instructions. Jot down routines and practices that you feel help students with EF skills. Then, in the other column, write routines or practices that might create challenges for EF components, like working memory, cognitive flexibility, or inhibitory control. Stop the video and take a few minutes to complete this task. Some possible responses for routines that support EF skills could be morning check-ins and agendas help students plan their day and practice organization. Structured transitions between activities support time management and reduce stress. Explicitly teaching and modeling steps for assignments strengthens task initiation and working memory. Using visual schedules or daily planners helps students track tasks and deadlines independently. And collaborative group work with defined roles encourages self-monitoring, flexible thinking, and social-emotional regulation. Some routines that might unintentionally create challenges could be long periods of unstructured time can be overwhelming for students who struggle with self-regulation. Sudden changes to the schedule without warning may challenge students' flexibility and emotional control. Expecting students to remember multi-step instructions without support can overtax their working memory. Relying heavily on independent work without scaffolds may create stress for students with organization or planning difficulties. And classroom routines that lack clear cues for transitions may increase impulsive behavior or off-task time. We have learned about EF and what it looks like in the classroom, and we even reflected on how we might add or change our practices to include universal or targeted supports. But what can your students realistically do or not do in terms of EF skills at their age? What are those developmental stages of growth so that we can plan accordingly? Developmental stages are the typical phases of growth in thinking, behavior, and social skills that students go through as they mature. These stages guide how educators support learning based on students' age-related needs and abilities. Understanding developmental stages helps instructors align instruction with students' readiness, ensuring that lessons are appropriate for their cognitive, social, and emotional abilities. It informs behavior expectations and allows instructors to provide supports that match students' developmental levels. Awareness of these stages also helps identify when interventions may be needed and fosters stronger instructor-student relationships by promoting empathy, realistic expectations, and responsive teaching practices. Let's consider typical developmental stages according to age and grade band, defined as early elementary, grades K through 2, ages 5 through 8, upper elementary, grades 3 through 5, ages 8 through 11, middle school, grades 6 through 8, ages 11 to 14, and high school, grades 9 through 12, and ages 14 through 18. What EF skills do students have at each of these stages that will help you better understand what they should be able to do and what may still be a struggle? In early childhood, students experience rapid cognitive growth, including language development and foundational academic skills like reading and math. Socially and emotionally, they are learning to share, take turns, and begin regulating their emotions. Understanding these milestones helps instructors plan age-appropriate lessons, provide supports, and scaffold learning to match students' developmental abilities. In early childhood classrooms, developmentally appropriate supports are essential for building a foundation for learning. For example, practice and repetition allow for mastery of foundational skills, thus reinforcing students' cognitive growth. Centers and group activities provide opportunities for students to practice important social skills, like taking turns, sharing materials, and communicating respectfully with peers. These strategies align directly with early learners' cognitive and social emotional stages, helping them develop language, self-regulation, and cooperation. Teaching tip: scaffold independence gradually and celebrate small achievements to build confidence and motivation for continued growth. Here are a few K through 2nd EF activities that you can implement in your classroom. The first one, Simon Says with a Twist, strengthens listening comprehension, vocabulary, and following multi-step directions. Adding variations such as math or literacy cues, such as Simon Says clap 3 times, or Simon Says touch something that starts with a B, supports early cognitive growth while keeping students active and engaged. How to play. The teacher gives commands, but students only follow them if prefaced with Simon Says. Occasionally, give multi-step commands like Simon Says count out 7 fingers and hold them above your head. EF skills targeted are working memory by remembering all of the steps in the command, and inhibitory control, resisting acting if Simon Says isn't said. Tip: add fun variations to include classroom-specific actions to keep engagement high. Emotional charades help students identify, label, and express feelings appropriately. By acting out emotions and guessing others' expressions, students practice empathy, self-awareness, and social understanding. All essential components of EF regulation and peer interaction. Students draw a card with an emotion, happy, frustrated, surprised, and act it out without speaking. Peers guess the emotion. EF skills targeted are self-regulation by practice expressing emotions appropriately, and perspective taking and cognitive flexibility, recognize and interpret others' emotions. A tip is, after guessing, discuss situations where they might feel that emotion and ways to management. These activities align closely with the developmental stages of early learners, promoting cognitive growth and social emotional regulation. In upper elementary, students' cognitive skills are developing rapidly with improved memory, attention, and problem-solving abilities, along with the emergence of abstract thinking. Socially and emotionally, peer relationships become increasingly important, and children are more aware of fairness and rule following. Understanding these developmental milestones help instructors design lessons and activities that challenge students appropriately while supporting both social emotional growth and executive functioning skills. In upper elementary grades, students are developing greater independence, critical thinking, and social awareness. To support cognitive development, problem-solving activities help strengthen reasoning and logical thinking. Students begin to see multiple ways to approach a challenge, which builds perseverance and deeper understanding. For social and emotional development, assigning group projects with defined roles, like recorder, leader, or presenter, promotes fairness and accountability. These experiences teach communication, teamwork, and respect for others' ideas, while helping students manage group dynamics. These strategies together encourage independence, responsibility, and cooperative learning, key milestones for students at this developmental stage. Teaching tip: encourage independence, but monitor group dynamics to prevent conflict, especially since rule following is developing at this stage. Activity ideas for upper elementary are step-by-step project planning. This activity develops essential cognitive skills like organization, sequencing, attention to detail, and problem solving. Students learn to break down a larger task into manageable steps, which helps them strengthen executive functioning and begin abstract thinking, skills that are especially important at this developmental stage. How to implement: you give students a project, like building a model or solving a math problem, and ask them to outline each step before starting. EF skills targeted are planning, working memory, and organization, because students learn to break large tasks into manageable parts and track progress. A tip is use a visual like Cornell Notes or a web map. The second activity idea is role switching activities. Role switching supports social and emotional growth by encouraging students to see situations from different perspectives. It fosters empathy, respect, and cooperation, key components of positive peer relationships. As kids place more value on fairness and rules, this activity gives them a structured way to practice those ideas. So during group work, assign students different roles: recorder, presenter, researcher, and rotate roles throughout the activity. EF skills targeted are cognitive flexibility, collaboration, and perspective taking. Students learn to adapt to different responsibilities and see tasks from multiple viewpoints. A tip would be to set a timer for switching roles to help students follow directions. In middle school, students' cognitive abilities expand with the development of abstract thinking and reasoning, though executive functioning skills are still maturing. Socially and emotionally, students begin exploring their identities, are highly influenced by peer pressure, and often experience increased self-consciousness. Understanding these milestones help instructors design lessons that challenge students appropriately, while also providing scaffolds, supports, and opportunities to practice EF skills. In middle school classrooms, instructors can support the development of students' cognitive and social emotional skills through practical strategies. With middle school students' growing abilities to think abstractly and effectively reason, you can plan to increase the rigor of your assignments in the classroom. This provides more opportunities for students to build those cognitive processes that are often stifled by assignments that simply require them to recall information. Goal setting and self-monitoring strategies strengthen both cognitive and social emotional development through reflection, self-awareness, and ownership of learning. Together, these approaches align with students' developmental needs and promote success across academic and social-emotional domains. Teacher tip: provide clear structure and consistent feedback to support EF and emotional growth. Activity ideas for middle school could be a mission possible. It's a goal planning challenge. Students plan and execute a task within set constraints while reflecting on their process. How to implement: give constraints. For example, 20 minutes to plan, limited materials, a specific budget, etc. And have them list their goal, steps, resources, potential obstacles, and how they'll measure, then execute and present. EF skills targeted are planning, organization, self-monitoring, and working memory. This builds executive functioning by requiring these students to break down tasks, manage time, think flexibly, and reflect in their performance, all in a motivating, collaborative context. A tip would be to allow for group and self-reflection based on EF skills such as planning and organization. Math mindset detectives are where students identify and analyze emotional reactions to math challenges, recognize how emotions affect thinking, and practice strategies for staying calm and persistent when problems get tough. How to implement: explain that being a math mindset detective means noticing how we feel when solving problems and investigating how those feelings impact our strategies. Give short, realistic math-related scenarios, such as your group finishes the problem, but your answer is different than everybody else's. Or you studied hard for a test, but missed several questions you thought you understood. Discuss how they might be feeling and how they could handle it. EF skills targeted are emotional control, self-monitoring, flexible thinking, perseverance, and problem solving. And a tip would be to modify this for other subject areas like a story character or historical figure. In high school, students' cognitive abilities include stronger abstract reasoning, future-oriented thinking, and improved decision-making. Though executive functioning skills are still developing, socially and emotionally, high school students value autonomy and independence, but they do continue to need adult guidance, and risk-taking behaviors are common. Understanding these developmental milestones allows instructors to design learning experiences that challenge students while scaffolding EF, supporting social emotional growth, and guiding decision-making. In high school classrooms, instructors can support executive functioning and overall developmental growth through targeted strategies. Assigning more intensive projects with scaffolds helps students strengthen cognitive skills like long-term planning, organization, and self-monitoring. Encouraging self-directed learning with periodic check-ins builds both cognitive and social-emotional capacity by promoting independence, self-reflection, and accountability. Together, these strategies align with students' cognitive and social-emotional building the skills that they need for post-secondary success. Teaching tip: balance independence with support. Teach EF skills explicitly, such as time management, prioritization, and goal setting. And remember, at this stage, decision-making is still developing. High school EF activities could be a capstone or research project. Planning and completing capstone or research projects engages students in complex cognitive processes like organization, goal setting, and sustained attention. These projects challenge students to break down large tasks into manageable steps, promoting executive functioning skills essential for academic success and lifelong learning. Topics often focus on future-oriented subjects like college, career, or community, thus also promoting their cognitive growth. How to implement: students create a detailed timeline for a long-term project, set intermediate goals, and self-assess progress at each milestone with ongoing support from the instructor. Remember that decision-making and the physical development of their brains are still evolving at this stage, and therefore they do require ongoing support from adults. EF skills targeted are planning, organization, time management, and self-monitoring. Students practice breaking complex text into manageable steps and reflecting on their progress. A tip would be consider allowing students to choose their own topics for the project to ensure relevancy. And peer feedback workshops encourage students to practice giving and receiving constructive criticism in a respectful way. This strengthens communication, empathy, and collaboration skills, all vital for healthy social interactions and team-based work in and beyond school. How to implement? Students review each other's work using structured feedback guidelines, providing constructive comments and suggestions. The EF skills targeted are cognitive flexibility, self-regulation, and perspective taking. Students learn to consider alternative ideas, regulate emotions during critique, and collaborate effectively. A tip would be modeling by the instructor, and it's essential to teach them how to provide constructive feedback. Now, let's watch a video on bolstering executive functioning in middle and high school students. As you watch, identify one or two strategies that you could immediately implement in your classroom to heighten executive functioning skills. Even if you are an elementary instructor, how can you modify one or more of these strategies with your students?
It's easy to write off teenagers as lazy, forgetful, or disengaged, but when we support them in aligning their thoughts and behaviors with their goals, we help them meet success in school now and in careers and life later. Adolescence is a critical time for the development of executive function skills. In middle and high school, when switching classes and managing workloads from several teachers becomes the norm, some students may struggle. Proficiency in these skills can vary greatly from student to student. This is developmentally normal, and factors like ADHD, stress, and boredom can impair executive functioning. But within this struggle lies an excellent opportunity to make a lifelong impact, since we know that executive functioning is a strong indicator of future success. Increasingly, research is zeroing in on tools that teens and teachers can use to strengthen executive function. A trove of new research suggests that when students are routinely given time to write or speak about the ways they might improve their study habits, ace an upcoming test, or manage their social anxiety, they feel a deeper sense of belonging, attend school more frequently, and improve their academic performance. Giving students tools like calendars, trackers, and priority lists won't work if the students aren't motivated to use them. So integrate planning tools into your daily routine, or even ask students to submit them for credit, and assign longer projects that require careful planning. When teens provide advice about optimal study habits to their peers, they convince themselves and improve their own grades. Try breaking students into groups to discuss strategies for an upcoming test or presentation, or ask them to write emails to their peers about how to manage their complex schedules. Purpose drives learning, but there's far too much emphasis placed on the teacher's role as inspirational leader. Research from 2014 reveals that when students do the work themselves, identifying real-world problems they're passionate about or imagining themselves in careers that can change the world, they improve their grades, attend and finish college at higher rates, and spend more time on challenging tasks. By helping students build a connection between school tasks and their personal goals, we can support them in developing the habit of using metacognitive strategies to accomplish longer-term achievement.
What were one or two strategies that you could immediately implement in your classroom to heighten executive functioning skills? And again, even if you're an elementary instructor, how can you modify one or more of these strategies with your students? Stop the video and jot them down now. We have covered a lot of content, So let's summarize our learning quickly. Executive functioning drives learning and behavior by supporting working memory, cognitive flexibility, and self-control, which are essential for academic, social, and emotional success. Being aware of developmental stages allows teachers to tailor expectations and supports to students' cognitive and emotional growth across K-12. Embedding intentional strategies such as consistent routines, visual supports, task breakdowns, goal setting, and reflection in your classroom or with your group help strengthen EF skills in everyday activities. Instructors serve as coaches by scaffolding skills, modeling strategies, and providing patience and guidance, creating an environment where all students can thrive. Effective instruction begins with assessing student needs to understand where learners are academically, socially, and emotionally. Using this information, instructors can provide targeted instruction that addresses those specific gaps and builds essential EF skills through differentiation and scaffolding. Educators then implement tools and supports, such as visuals, organizers, and goal setting, to help students access learning and develop independence. Establishing structured routines creates consistency and predictability, allowing students to focus and feel secure. Instructors should also collaborate with colleagues and staff to ensure that coordinated support and share effective strategies. Throughout the instructional process, it's vital to model and practice the skills, giving students guided and independent opportunities to apply what they've learned. Finally, educators should reflect and adjust based on data and student feedback to continuously improve instruction and outcomes for building EF skills. We hope you enjoyed this module on executive functioning and developmental stages. Please complete the Check for Understanding and the survey included in the Google Classroom. Thank you, and we look forward to providing continued support for your professional growth at University Instructors.